everyone. This is Greg Drevenstead, editor-in-chief at Rider Magazine, and your host for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. Our guest today, episode 82, is Eric Trow. He's been on the show before. He's a longtime contributing editor for Rider. He writes our monthly Riding Well column. He writes various features, and he's also the man behind the Staying Safe Advanced Rider Training. Before we get rolling with the episode, here's a word from our sponsors, Western Power Sports and the Big East Power Sports. Power Sports Show is rolling into Syracuse, New York this October, and it isn't just another expo. It's your full access weekend to the latest motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles, gear, and accessories, plus live demos, giveaways, and tons of fan-fueled energy. Whether you ride street or track, snow or trail, Big East brings the world of outdoor recreation to you. It's live October 3rd and 4th at New York State Fairgrounds. Get $5 off your tickets with promo code PODCAST at BigEastPowersportsShow.com. How's your summer going so far?
Oh, hey, great to be here, Greg. It's really fun to connect again. Always fun to do these. Summer's going great. It's flying by, but it's a good one. I still have a lot of rides, a lot of specific things that I want to get in, and so I've got to get the act together to catch up to the list a little bit. We've had a lot of rain and a lot of severe heat over here in the East, but it's starting to shape up.
Yeah. I've heard about some of the rain and flooding in various parts of the country. I always find that so weird because, of course, in California this time of year, it's bone dry. We don't get any rain. It's like there's plenty of rain. It's just it's not well distributed. It's like there's too much of it in some places, not enough of it in others. Well, my wife, Carrie, and I went to New Mexico for a couple weeks and had a road trip. That was in our 4Runner, not on a motorcycle, but got to take a little break from work, which was really needed, but a nice reset.
Yeah.
And the thing about these trips, we often do it and go hiking and kind of exploring and checking out restaurants and things like that.
Sure.
But man, northern New Mexico has some really beautiful roads. I definitely want to go back there and ride. There's the near Taos is something called the Enchanted Circle Scenic Byway, which goes around something called Wheeler Peak. Really beautiful. There's the high road to Taos from Santa Fe, which was really nice. And then there's a road called Highway 4 that goes from roughly Santa Fe-ish. It goes up to a couple of national monuments. One's called Bandelier National Monument, which is where there's some cliff dwellings. It goes past Los Alamos, where the Manhattan Project was based. And then it goes up to over about 9,000 feet to a place called Calles Valdera National Monument, and just stunning roads with you look at these beautiful rock formations and canyons and stuff. And I've got to get back to northern New Mexico on a motorcycle.
Oh, that's fabulous. And there is nothing like the Southwest. It never stops being breathtaking.
Yeah.
And you're just reminding me of how many places I've been, whether it's been on a business trip or some family vacation somewhere, and everything it just adds to the list of I've got to get back there. I've got to get back there, and I've got to get there on two wheels. Yeah.
Right. Well, you and I did that last fall. So last September, you and I met with Scott Williams, another contributing editor. We were based in Athens for a few days and rode the Ohio's Windy Nine routes. So my great aunt, Jean, she just turned 98 on Sunday.
Wow. That's
amazing.
Fabulous. Yeah.
She's lived there for, I mean, since before I was born. She was a professor at Ohio University. I used to visit her over the years and always thought Athens was a really charming town because it's
It is. Yeah.
southeastern Ohio, college town, bricked, paved streets, beautiful campus. But I had never ridden a motorcycle there. And so you and Scott and I got to go there, and really, they've got some absolutely fantastic riding. I've read the thing about Rider is because we do so many travel features in the magazine, I read about places all the time like, oh, I'd love to go ride there. Oh, I'd love to go ride there that I've never been. And even places I'm familiar with, it's like if you've still, it's a different experience doing it on a motorcycle. We packed a bunch of fantastic riding in 2 or 3 days. So that was great.
Yeah, and I have to say they put together, they being the folks who put together the Windy Nine, and it is Windy Nine, not Windy Nine, although it
Correct.
can be windy, but windy, twisty it is, and some really great out and back loops and a nice way to connect them all together. I still think somehow Southern Ohio has been a well-kept secret, and I know those guys are trying to break out of that a bit. There's some tremendous riding. We had a chance to hit some stuff that I haven't been on before. I have used a lot of southeastern Ohio in our Staying Safe advanced rider training tours because it's just so rich. Actually, Larry did before me, Larry Grodsky, and fell in love with that area. That's a destination for me from Pittsburgh just to get in some great riding. Doing the Windy Nine with you and with Bones was something that I was thinking, oh, okay, I'll get a chance to re-ride some of my favorite roads. Man, it introduced even more. And right. I will tell you too, anybody who has ridden 555, the triple nickel in the past, we rode portions of it as part of our tour, but there was a section in the middle that was very twisty, but always very narrow, rough pavement and a lot of gravel. And that's that section that they have widened. They've smooth pavement, and that's now become just like a little kid, do it again. And
exactly. Yeah.
That's where I think Bones and I loved the fact that you said you were taking pictures for that and say, okay, I just need you guys to go back and turn around and do it again. And we were eating that up. And I just felt for you because you're just stuck on a hillside waiting for us to pass. But
what's funny is that because having not ridden these routes, and again, there's 9 of them, they're all, the way that they're set up is each one is a loop and they start and end in Athens. And me being very type A, I was like, okay, we're going to be here for 3 days. So let's do 1, 2, and 3 the first day, 4, 5, and 6 the next day, 7, 8, 9 the next day. And you're much more creative and loose. And you've also know the area. It's like, oh, well, we can kind of jump from route to route and connect the dots. And I was like really resistant that first morning at breakfast. We talked about that, but I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But it actually worked really well. And there's actually roads that between the routes and these connectors where you can find a few that aren't actually on the designated routes that are still fantastic roads. We're looking at the map like, oh, we can jump from here to here because we didn't necessarily want to go all the way back into town.
Right.
We wanted to be able to stay out for most of the day and visit some other places. So we ended up, what I thought was cool about the way that we did is we rode some portions of the route in both directions. So as you know, every right to left, everything just feels very different. And it was fantastic. So that was a lot of fun. So I'm hoping we can get another ride in. I don't know if we can do it this fall. I know you've got a IMT bike, Land of the Vineyards Portugal tour coming up late September, early October. But I would love to come out your way. And since we were in Ohio, I would love to fly out to Pittsburgh and borrow a bike or rent a bike and ride some of your favorite roads. I know that's an area of Pennsylvania that I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah, well, and that, man, would love to have you out here. I have a Honda 90 I can loan to you. It'll be great. That might be my way of keeping up with you. But anyway, there are really some great areas out here. We've written about the Allegheny National Forest, which is north of where I am, but I just took a ride yesterday over into the Laurel Highlands, and I wanted to visit the Lincoln Highway experience, and it's a museum out there. And I just started to do some great riding out there on Route 30, the old Lincoln Highway, and all of these highways, by the way, they're the numbered highways now. We're celebrating 100 years. But anyway, there are a lot of great roads out here that people don't tend to think of Western Pennsylvania as a great place to ride. And it really is. You just have to carve it out, figure out just where it is once you get out of the city of Pittsburgh.
Well, I lived for years in Philadelphia on the other side of the state and dipped into, the interior of the state some, but not that much. Wasn't really much of a touring rider at the time. And, the joke when I lived in Philadelphia was that the state of Pennsylvania is Philadelphia on the eastern side, Pittsburgh on the western side, and Kentucky in the middle. Like
Yeah.
it's because it's very rural. It's a big state, but it's got a lot of rural areas, very mountainous.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's tons of great riding. And we've, again, published travel stories about, like you said, yours about the Allegheny National Forest. There's a lot of other places that we've written about, the
Mm-hmm.
PA Route 6 that goes across the whole northern tier
Yeah.
of the
Yep.
state. And yeah, I'm tired of reading about it and editing stories about it and looking at photos about it. I want to go do it myself.
Now that sounds great. We'll love to show you around. That'll be terrific.
So you just touched on something. So we just finished up the August issue, which has the focus of that issue is Route 66, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people may not know that. I mean, everybody's heard of Route 66, but Route 66 celebrates its 100th anniversary next year, at least the 100th anniversary when it was designated by the
Yep.
U.S. Bureau of Public Roads. So 1926 is when it was a designated federal highway. It's one of the first numbered highways, but you just mentioned U.S. Route 30 and the Lincoln Highway, which was designated the year before. So it celebrates its 100th anniversary this year. That's correct?
Yeah. Now it was completed in 1925. I'd have to look and see if maybe that was 26, but they're all at around the same time where they took the major highways that had been developed and assigned them the numbers. But yeah, it was completed in 1925.
What was an interesting thing for me to learn in doing some research about Route 66 is that 1926 is the year they designated. But, there's a quote I have in my column with a little bit of history from the National Park Service is that
Yep.
essentially 1926 is when they assigned a number to what was already some existing roads. They basically stitched together from Chicago to St. Louis was what was called the Lone Star Route.
Yep.
From St. Louis to New Mexico was part of the Ozark Trails system. And then from New Mexico to Los Angeles was part of the Old National Trail Highway Road or something like that. So they were existing roads, but they were typically in poor condition. Route 66 wasn't fully paved until 1938. Once they were designated as federal highways, and there was a federal highway system, this is several decades before the interstate highway system, federal dollars started to be funneled towards improving these. So paving them, building better bridges, doing, better signage, all those sorts of things. And
Yeah.
what was fascinating to me is, Route 66 was officially decommissioned in 1985, so 40 years ago, after it was essentially fully replaced by interstates. And is that it changed, it was realigned and rerouted many, many times over the course of its, I guess 80-year history or 60-year history.
Mm-hmm.
As for example, we were just talking about being in northern New Mexico. Carrie and I were walking around downtown, the historic area of Santa Fe, and I saw a historic Route 66 sign, and it said pre-1937. So Route 66 used to go, as it came across New Mexico, went up to Santa Fe, went through Santa Fe, and then down towards Albuquerque, and then around 1937, I guess they said, no, we're going to go a much more efficient route, and just went straight across from, I guess is it Las Vegas, New Mexico, or somewhere, went straight across to Albuquerque and kind of cut out, Santa Fe. So yeah, there's been realignments, rerouting, new bridges, lots of things, because as it got more and more traffic, the demands were they had to take out these like 90-degree bends and other things like that. Anyway, just super fascinating. That issue, digital edition of our August issue just came out on Friday. The print edition will go out to subscribers in a couple of weeks. Had a lot of fun working on it. I've only written.
It's a nice issue, really nice issue.
Yeah, thank you. I've only written really portions from basically Arizona to California. So I wrote I drove a little bit of the part in New Mexico during this road trip with my wife. But I also read just the summer in preparation for the issue, read Grapes of Wrath and sort of the, what the migration that was happening during the Depression and post, during and after the Dust Bowl. And yeah, that was the main corridor, migration corridor road for folks that were going from the plains in the Midwest out to California, looking for work. So it was fascinating.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned in Pennsylvania, Route 6, and 6 is another road that runs. It actually, if I'm not mistaken, it started in Pennsylvania, but it extended all the way to the West Coast. But it was a great example of one. You never hear anybody talking about taking 6 across the country because it took such weird Actually, it's perfect for guys like me because I just would want to explore all these
Right.
weird ways that it went, but it was never an efficient way to get to anywhere. That was one that just became kind of replaced with other routes, whatever we call them, and that were much more direct, and that ultimately then became highways. Even the Lincoln Highway is only Route 30 for portions of it. Route 50 across Nevada, the loneliest road in America, is actually the Lincoln Highway. It's a section of the
Okay.
Lincoln Highway. Yeah.
So the
So,
Lincoln Highway connects different numbered roads as part of it. But yes, okay.
yep. And by the way, yeah, the Lincoln Highway. I'm waiting for someone to respond to say, because I referred to PA Route 66
Right.
as the father road, kind of tongue in cheek, because
Right.
I said it has paw in it, PA. And if US 66 is the mother road, but actually the Lincoln Highway was always called the father road. So that was the first transcontinental highway.
Yeah, there's, that's the fascinating thing because Route 6, there it actually ends in California. I know you said in your article. So yeah, your article in the August issue, you talk about some of these other numbered highways that are also
Mm-hmm.
celebrating their centennial in 2019 or 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Route 30, Route 50, some others that are in state highways. Yeah, Route 6, you said in your column that eventually, it originally went out to San Francisco. Now it ends in
Right.
Bishop, California.
Yep.
But again, that's a really nice, I've done the nice ride through Bishop. And then there's a section through Utah from Tonopah, Nevada to, I think, Delta, Utah. And you were talking about the loneliest
Mm-hmm.
highway.
Oh,
Well, this
yeah.
is like 100 and something miles of nothing. I almost ran
Yeah.
out of gas on a
Yep.
Ducati GT 1000 I was testing there because it was like, hey, there's nobody out here. Let's get on it. And then I'm like, oh wait, there's no gas stations around here. I'm getting low on gas. Yeah, so yeah.
Don't you love hitting reserve when there's nothing in sight anywhere and you know there's nothing behind you?
When there's no cell signal, so it's not like I'm like, oh, I can get on Gas Buddy and find the nearest gas station or something like that. So no, it was nice.
Yeah, and that
But
next car that's going to show up an hour later is going to help you out. Yeah.
yeah, I actually literally stopped at somebody's house, and these days, I guess it's a different sort of time period. You just don't show up on a stranger's front porch these days like you used to asking for help. But it was, it's not exactly a farmhouse with the, windmill and everything, but it was a little rural house. And I mainly was asking like, hey, where's the nearest gas station? And a woman answered the door and she had literally had a gas can on her front porch. And she's like, this happens more often than you would believe. This gas can here, and you're welcome to a gallon of it. And I tried to give her some money, and she wouldn't. But
Wow.
she told me directions to, like, I could get off of Route 6 and go to some town and was able to fill up. But yeah, that was like, I mean, that was such just serious range anxiety because it was a hot day. It was like, it was late August. And I was like, this is one of those things where I haven't seen many cars. It's not much
Oh, yeah.
traffic on that road. It's not a back road necessarily, but it was the sort of thing where, boy, I didn't have to get myself in this situation. So one of the things I want to mention about your column and kind of calling the 100-year highways.
Yeah.
So next year, a number of these federal highways, and we should probably come up with a list if we can of which ones they are and share it with listeners and readers. But your idea, and you sent me the photos today from your ride on the Lincoln Highway. You have a birthday candle and you blew out the birthday candle and have a couple of photos of you standing in front of the highway signs.
Right.
And the idea is for readers, listeners, anybody like, hey, a lot of these roads, most people may or may not know it. There may not be centennial celebrations like there will be for Route 66 in a lot of places, but
sure.
It's worth celebrating the 100-year anniversary of some of these major roads that really, connected states and cities and towns.
It's also they're wonderful roads for the most part, especially the 2 lanes. They're fabulous to get out and explore. So what a great excuse to get on the bike, head out to a different numbered road that's celebrating this. Yeah, let's celebrate the birthdays of them. Let's capture them and put them all together and send in your pics.
Yeah, absolutely. Send them in to us at ridermagazine.com. We'll post them on social media. We'll probably do some sort of web page, photo gallery or something. Maybe even do a special feature about it next year if we get enough photos from people. Because, yeah, I mean, Route 66 gets a lot of the attention because, I mean, there's a famous song that was written about it. There was a TV show and there's a lot of movies. I mean, the Pixar animated movie in 2006, Cars, is inspired by the story essentially about Route 66. And the cool thing is, we have a couple travel stories of one guy, Jeff Davison, who rode the whole thing. Another travel story, we have a guy named John Alger, who's also started in Chicago. He only made it as far as Amarillo, Texas, because he was on a 1978 Yamaha SR 500 kickstart only bike.
Loved. Yep. Always wanted one of
And
those.
it's a great story, but he ended up having it some sort of ignition failure when he got to Amarillo, and he couldn't get it fixed, and he had to basically throw in the towel on his trip.
Yeah.
So he only
Unfortunately,
made it halfway, basically.
unfortunately, on an SR 500, when you have a cylinder go, you're done. That's it.
Exactly. You only got one. Exactly. So anyway, like with next year for these highways, I have to figure out. Route 6 is here in California, starts in Bishop. I can get up to there. I've got to figure out which ones are near me in California. And if I come out to see you in Pennsylvania, which ones we can go visit and
put a list together.
Blow some of those out. So,
I think that'd be great.
Another thing that we're going to have coming up, I know you're working on a story about your grandfather's Indian. So people have listened to previous episodes, read your work in the magazine. Probably know that your grandfather owned an Indian dealership there in southwestern Pennsylvania. Was an Indian racer. It was a tuner. What do you got going on?
Well, this is something that, as you mentioned, I think folks by now who've been reading know that my grandfather, a guy named Gene Townsend, he was always over the course of years, he had sold, I think it was 17 or more different brands, but Indian was always the consistent brand until he couldn't sell them anymore when Indian went out. But he was an Indian man all just through and through, and he had become very tight with folks up at the factory, especially the engineering department. And knowing a guy named Pop Armstrong, Earl Armstrong, who was also then on a lot of the training aspects of things, the maintenance and everything else, knew the guys in the engineering department well, and used to make runs up to the factory on a regular basis. Well, I tell all this because I'm finally writing an account of, there is an Indian chief that has been in my family my entire life. It had been made available to him when the factory was closing down its manufacturing operations. The story was always consistent. And you have to keep in mind, I think what's interesting about this and to keep in perspective is he wound up getting an Indian that was put together from remaining parts after they fulfilled a final order of police motorcycles for the state of New York. This was offered to him because of his relationship with them. They had a handful of bikes that they were going to build out of parts. He was one of the ones that they offered it to. So this story will capture that and tell the story of how all of that happened, what that meant. The thing that is interesting to think about is while Indians are collectible now, have some value, at that time and for many years afterwards, they were just another motorcycle company that had gone bankrupt and went out of business. They really weren't worth a whole lot. Well, one of the things is when he got this, though, he rode it for a few miles, and I mean, a couple thousand miles. He finally put it away when he had taken it to the hardware store, came out, and there was somebody sitting on it. And when he told the guy to get off the seat, the guy dragged his foot across the rear fender with his boot, put a scratch on the rear fender. Yeah. And that's when my grandfather just said, you know what, this bike deserves to be preserved. I'm not going to take it out anymore, primarily just because he couldn't replace it. So throughout my life, this thing always sat in a dark corner of the old motorcycle shop. It was never featured in the showroom. It was always back and covered up, and it was chained to the building. On rare occasions and with a little bit of egging from me, he would pull it out after it sat for, a handful of years even. And the coolest thing, Greg, was that no matter what, when you pulled this bike out, you put fluids in it and put a battery in it, it would always start by the second kick. And, once you prime kicked it and everything else. Right. So anyway, so that bike has remained in the family since it was new. So that's, more than 70 years ago now. And it's identical to what it was like when I was a little kid. It even has the original tires on it. And
still starts with the orange paint? Is that
that's the Tangerine Chief. Yep.
Tangerine Chief. Wow. So was that a factory color back then? That's a pretty.
It was. And what Indian was doing at that time is they were so out of money. So they went to the 80 cubic inch engine from the 74 in 1950 because it was an easy thing to do. It was what they did is made a long stroke engine even longer, which wasn't ideal, but it made the displacement adjustment. But they didn't have the money for development of a lot of other things. So the easiest way to freshen the motorcycle was to give it, they had a lot of paint choices and So a lot of 50s colors. So that tangerine color, you had turquoise type paints
Right.
and stuff
Right.
like that that were just to kind of freshen up the bikes a bit. But tangerine was one of the colors that was used in the final couple of years.
Well, I guess it's like these days when a new model year motorcycle comes out, gets announced, and they call it BNG, bold new graphics. That's typically it's like
Exactly.
the price is either the same or a little bit more, and like it's just a different set of graphics and stuff like that, but nothing else has changed. So yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's been a fun one to be working on that and reconnecting with some folks who are familiar with the story from way
right.
back when, who knew my grandfather. And there's some other interesting little twists to this, and another thing tied to an engine that also he had as a spare. So
Okay.
that'll be coming.
This is a bike that has been in your possession for a while. How did
Yeah.
it sort of get passed down from your grandfather to you?
Well, and keep in mind here too. So it was. I think he had a dealer plate on it probably when it was early on and everything. He had it titled from 1955 or 56 all the way through until he passed in 1998. And
Okay.
then it went into my mother's name for a couple of years, and then it went into my name. She knew that I was going to be the one taking care of it and doing everything from that standpoint. So it's been in my possession really since then.
And do you have to do much to maintain it, or do you ride it much? I mean, or is it more of just kind of a family keepsake that you keep it, looking nice, but
It's a little bit of a balance. It spent about 10 years in our living room.
okay. Wow. Nice.
We had converted our living room to a bar, our formal living room into a bar, and the bike sat there. I don't I don't know if I told you or not about. My wife found out that I had this idea as I was wheeling it into the front door of the house, and she was coming down the stairs.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission, right?
Yeah, it was at that point, and then the neighbor kid was helping me push it from behind up into the front landing area. I said, "Oh, yeah, I probably should have said something to her because it just was an idea I had. I was trying to make some more room in the garage, and she was all on board. And actually,
Oh,
the times
that's
that I
awesome.
talked about taking it out, she was like, "Nah, it looks good in there." So that's where it was. But yeah, I started it a couple of years ago with Parker, my son. That was really fun. That was probably one of the longer periods where it had been unstarted.
Yeah.
And it sat for about 13 years, fired right up. The float
Nice.
was sticking a little bit, but just a little tap on the float
Yeah.
bowl, and it started right up. It has been periodically to a couple shows, but mostly it lives in this garage here at the cabin. It's due to be started again. So Parker and I were just talking about that, and I have a 50 Chief also, which this is the year that Parker will have the chance to hop on the 50, learn how to work the hand shift, foot clutch.
Yeah, I've never ridden one of those types of motorcycles. I understand it takes a little bit of work to recalibrate your brain.
Yeah, a little bit. Oddly enough, I'm better with that than an Indian in the true form. It's a right hand shift with a left hand throttle, and then you have the manual spark advance on the right twist grip. I do better with that. People ask all the time when I have one out, so how in the world do you go from one a conventional motorcycle to this? And I say it's kind of like hopping onto a tractor. It just works different. It's a different animal versus hopping on an old Triumph from 1970 where everything's the same except your foot brake and your shift lever are reversed, and that makes for some really ugly downshifts because when you go to you decide to feather the rear brake.
So I don't think I knew that you had two older chiefs. Yeah. So your grandfather's would be 53 because that was the last year Indian was in business, or is it?
Yeah, probably assembled. From everything we can tell, it was assembled in 54, late 53 or 54.
Okay.
Just before they shut everything down. And then my other one it came from the shop, was in 1950 that I restored about 20 years ago.
Right.
And it's probably due for another restoration, but that's the one that gets ridden. That's
I see. Yeah.
Taking this, the Tangerine Chief still has less than 3,000 original miles on it, and still has
original tires. So I mean, Jesus,
and they hold air tremendously well. Yeah, but they're rock hard.
Yeah. I would think.
I think
that would make me nervous being out on tires that old. I would just like at some point they're just be like, nope, giving up.
Yeah. And I wonder. There's a lot of it that what's interesting is those tires. It's like, how in the world would they have held up this long? Right. And of course, being from out in California, it was always hard to keep tires on anything. Right. But I think the fact that this sat in the dark corner of the motorcycle shop, never in sun.
Right.
that just helped through the
Right.
years.
Right.
And the funny things that are worn out are the edge of the seat and the kick pedal, just from years of pumping the oil through, because that was my job. Every time I'd
Right.
go up to the shop,
Right.
I'd
Yeah.
climb on the thing and kick it through just to keep oil and
Right.
parts moving.
Well, hey, I look forward to reading more about it. Sounds it's a fascinating story. I mean, your Chasing Gene and Washi feature from God, that was 2022, I think, about story about your
Is that when
grandfather
that
and
was?
his
Wow.
friend Washi, and how you reconnected
Yeah,
with the
with
grandson
Ron.
of Washi, and that you and his son and your son, that you guys all went and
Yeah,
went
we
to
had
this
great.
old racetrack. I mean, that was such a great story, great photos. So I'm looking forward to learning more of the story. So that's
Thanks.
just one side of it. So.
Thanks. Yeah, that was neat. It was really fabulous to that whole thing started with I was at a flat track race at Williamsport and ran into Ron Washabaugh, the grandson
Yeah.
of Floyd Washabaugh, who the story's about, and we just started getting reconnected and came up with that idea of just wouldn't it be cool to try to retrace the steps that they took,
Sure.
and then the fact that you had the great grandsons on the trip as well made it really special. So, and here you go again. That's following the old national highway, the federal
Yeah.
highway that is celebrating 100 years, Route 40.
On that ride, you and was his name Ron?
Yeah, Ron
But
Washabaugh.
both of you have FTR 1200s?
I had an FTR and his son had an FTR. He
Oh, his
rides
son
it.
had the FTR. I
Yeah,
know
he
there were
was on
two
a
in the
Chieftain.
story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Or he was on a Roadmaster. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on a Roadmaster. So you're on three Indians, and then Parker was on the Indian, your Heritage Classic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you still have your FTR? I mean, I was really sorry to hear that Indian was discontinuing the FTR this year.
Yeah, and I do not have it any longer. I have this habit. I have things that I really enjoy, and then it's like, wow, what else? Because the other thing is, you probably don't know, is I did sell my Royal Enfield sidecar rig, which
Okay.
I really got that down and was enjoying it, having a great time. Then said, well, my wife wouldn't go anywhere near it. She'll ride with me on a motorcycle anywhere. She's looking forward to the IMT bike
Yeah.
trip coming up. But the sidecar outfit, nah, no interest whatsoever. And
I took
the dogs
care.
weren't
So
even
I
interested.
don't have. I had almost no experience riding a motorcycle with sidecar, and we had a Ural that we were testing, and I brought it home and I put Carrie in the side of that and took her. It scared the shit out of her. I mean, basically, it was like, oh, it's kind of like exciting, like a roller coaster. Like, also, you think you're going to die, and so it's just the dynamic. I mean, I don't know. I've never ridden in a sidecar, but I didn't ride it enough to, let's say, get comfortable with the dynamics of it. It just was.
Oh, I wrote it straight. I mean, I will admit this is I wrote it direct. I thought I had the hang of it, and then I was on a downhill right-hand curve and managed to, all of a sudden, it wouldn't steer anymore because of the way because I was applying brakes. It just wanted to go straight, went across.
Yeah.
Fortunately, nobody was coming, and I put it in a ditch.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's when I said, I really need to understand. For me, things have to click as to why does it work?
Right.
And once you realize, oddly enough, with that is if you think about the sidecar as dead weight, it's to go right, accelerate, to go
Yes.
left, roll off the throttle.
Right. Well, again, talking about like you just gotta switch gears. I know for me, like I'm a street rider whenever I go to ride off road, which I enjoy, but I
Oh
don't
my
do
gosh,
enough. I like
Mhm.
it takes me, I don't know, at least a solid hour to kind of like recalibrate and kind of like loosen up and not fight it so much. And the funny thing is, I've talked to people that are basically dirt bike people that then I meet that, like, let's say it's a press launch for an adventure bike, and they're like some dirt bike guy, and they're like, man, it's like I feel really weird on the street. He's like, I'm not used to all this traction. I'm like, oh, geez, traction is your friend, but so I can imagine, yeah, just trying to recalibrate. And I at the time didn't feel like I had the patience for it. And personally, unfortunately, I don't have the sort of space where I could have. Some people were like, oh, I would like to have a girl just to have one to go ride on the Sunday and take my dog, and I live near the beach and all that stuff. But I'm like, I don't have the room for that for something
No.
that's a novelty item. I mean, so it's
Yeah.
like having a grand piano in your house or something. It's like, well, it takes up a
Sure.
lot of room. So yeah, but
I can fit 4 spinets in the place that I have that grand piano. Right.
yeah, exactly. So you sold your Royal Enfield with sidecar, and I know you had written an article recently. One of your columns was about selling your Honda Dream because you had
Yeah.
when you were younger.
Yep.
Then you bought one recently, and then did you have to do much work to restore that one, or did you kind of buy it in fairly good shape?
It was actually in pretty good condition. I still tore it down. The prior owner had it for a brief period of time. He bought it from the original owner. He had gone over it, did a nice job of making sure mechanically it was really there. And then I just disassembled everything, replaced all of the hoses, all of the stuff that just goes bad
Yeah.
over time, just to make it more reliable. I think when I wrote that, I had a buyer for it, and he's
Yeah, I
thrilled
think
to
you
death with
mentioned at
it.
the end somebody was coming to pick it up. It was
Yep.
basically it was on its way out. So yeah,
I actually, I really like the correspondence after the fact when you're hearing what somebody's doing with it and all that
right,
sort of thing.
right.
The fun thing about that particular bike is it had so many period accessories. It was really kind of, I mean, they're kind of gaudy to begin with. They're just,
Right.
they're just such an unusual design,
Yeah.
which I always liked. But, it had the fiberglass Buco bags and the tall police style windshield
Right.
and every bolt-on chrome accessory that was available out of the equivalent of a JC Whitney catalog, probably.
Exactly. Well, it's like what I was looking back through some old issues of Rider. When we did our 50th
Mm,
anniversary stuff last year, and I'd look and see these old like Markland accessories or even Vetter, all these
yeah.
like people with gold wings. The amount of shit you could put on one. I mean, in terms of chrome and lights and bling and
Oh
stuff, it
yeah.
was like unbelievable. I mean, there were entire companies that were like just dedicated to selling Goldwing bolt-on stuff. It was
Oh
nuts.
sure.
Yeah. Anything else you're getting rid of? I mean, that you're willing
Let's
to
see.
confess?
I've been renewing and this does happen with me. I go in these waves of selling things off, and then I start bringing them back in again.
Yeah.
The bike that always, I think I'm always interested to see which ones remain, which are the ones that just always pass muster, that always
Yep.
are in there. That 1974 BMW R75 is still precious to me. It is. I
Yeah.
have great memories of having one many years ago, and my first cross country trip was on one. And when I get on that bike, it'll sit for periods of time where it won't get much love. And then recently, just the other day, I took it out and went on about a 200-mile ride. And every time I get on that, it's like being home.
Yeah.
Everything fits right. And that has odd switch controls. And I can sit on it with my eyes closed and reach down and go for the choke because it's in a different spot than it is on anything else. And it's just like all those things, but they're just a joy to ride. And
Yeah.
so that one stays. And
Okay.
I'm contemplating whether to do. It runs really well, but it's also could kind of stand. There are some systems there that could stand to be updated, and it's like, well, maybe I'll do a complete restoration on that. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
Right.
see, because I need more projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like I said. Well, in the summertime, you get longer days. That's not as cold in your garage, but that's also when you want to be out riding. So
Exactly. So that one's been fun to just head out and explore. One of the things that I'd like to do is more of an epic trip on a vintage bike. That
Okay.
would be something that I'd like to do. I don't know if I'll
It's
squeeze that in this year or not, but
yeah. Well, I mean, that requires some commitment. I mean, I admit I'm not a mechanically inclined person, so to have a vintage bike that that I wouldn't know how to fix something if it needed to would be a challenge. I just finished watching the Long Way Home series,
Mhm.
basically the fourth iteration of Ewan and Charlie, and they, but the adventure of their trip this year or this go around was to do it on older motorcycles. So
Yeah,
Ewan McGregor's got a
Moto Guzzi.
year old Moto Guzzi
Yeah,
Eldorado police bike that
nice.
looks like a total pile, but he loves it. And I mean, it's mainly because it just looks like it just hasn't, it's got all this patina on it. And one point in one episode, it's like towards the end and he cleans the front fender and it's like, oh my God, it's white. he just cleaned it. That's all he did. It's like, so
That's funny. I love it.
and Charlie's got some kind of, he got restored at the last minute BMW/5 or /6 or something like that. That's
Mhm.
been hotted up a little bit. So yeah, but it was very charming. Of the four series, like I like the first one the most. Well, I like the first one because that was like they were really like doing it for the first time, and it was kind of an
Yeah.
adventure, and they did a pretty epic trip. And then the second one got a little bit weird because Ewan's wife came for part of it, and it got to be this kind of weird sort of vibe between and then the third one with the electric bikes didn't really, I don't know. I understand what they were trying to do from a like, sustainable bikes and they had the Rivian prototypes, but charging infrastructure, that was the one where they went up from South America to LA.
Yep.
Charging infrastructure wasn't there. So they literally had a diesel truck with a generator on the back that followed them. I'm like, well, that negates the entire concept. I'm sorry. Like, so,
Yeah.
but this one, they're older. Poor Charlie's had a couple of like really nasty crashes over the last few years. And he's, so he's finally mellowed. He didn't do a single wheelie on this, one. And they're just, hey, they've been friends for 20 years. It's actually the 20th anniversary of their long way round. They visit some of the same spots, but they're in Europe, and it's more about their friendship and just the camaraderie. And I mean, you get that in all of them, but it's sort of like I guess because I can relate to them age wise, is that it's like I'm mellowing a bit. I'm a little bit more like whiskey now. It's I'm not doing not tequila shots. It's the 10-year-old Scotch. That kind of thing.
That's right. And Scotch is good. Well, it's one of the things that I've been thinking about a little bit here too, and even with the old bikes is I keep looking. It's odd that I'm looking forward to something late in the season, but I'm really looking forward to fall riding, and that's where I really love to take. If I'm going to do something with the old BMW, that's probably the timing, just because it's such a wonderful. Yeah. Well, actually, that just combines three things we just talked about. The vintage bike, doing kind of a trip, mellowing, because I think the fall is a great time to just mellow and take in the scenery and back roads and have a good time and hit all those old highways. That's always been something I've enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Well, if I come out your way and we do a ride, I'll ride your GSA and you ride your BMW.
That's fair enough. Enough.
So you were talking about the fall. So I know that, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I haven't really done a good long ride in a while. Last year I did a week-long trip out to Texas with my friend Eric, and we did Big Bend National Park. We did Coronado Trail in Arizona. We did the Texas Hill Country, had a great time. You and I and Bones did Athens for a few days. I haven't really had one this year myself. And so I know you're doing this Portugal tour with IMT Bike. I got to figure out what I can do. One of the things that I really like and haven't done in a while is going up into Northern California, either along the coast and go up into the redwoods. On the eastern side is the Sierras. Years ago, 2016, I had an FJR test bike, and I was like, what do I want to do?
Yep.
I did this 4 corners of California. Basically from Ventura, I went straight down to south of San Diego to San Isidro, which is like right at the Mexican border. Took photos there, rode due east to near Yuma, Arizona. And there's, it's kind of the southeastern corner of California. And then, of course, it's a super long ride all up the length of California, but went through Salton Sea and Salvation Mountain and all of that. Then the Eastern Sierras, and then the northeast corner of California. That is a very empty part of the state, northeastern California. It's high desert. Modoc County, Lassen County, there's like not much up there at all. And I ended up on a dirt road on an FJR to get to the state line of Oregon, then cut across and went to the northeast corner. And great ride. I mean, California's got a little bit of everything. So I need to go do a nice long ride and hit some of the high passes in the Sierras. And the fall is a great time because it's before the snow hits. It'll be cooler. Yep. And it'll be great.
I might come join you for that too. So we'll have to figure out how to do the East Coast, West Coast thing.
Absolutely. That would be great. Have you come out for a ride. So well, hey man, it's always good. We should do this again. So I know we said that last time, and it probably was a year since we did the last episode, but I love chatting with you. You've always got interesting stuff going on about motorcycles. Nice, because I get these columns from you, and it's like, snippet of what Eric's thinking about and what he's focused on. And I get to,
it's almost scary.
So, yeah. Oh, it's great. I mean, I love reading it. And I think what you did with the Father Road concept to kind of riff off of the Mother Road of Route 66. But hey, that road gets all the attention, but there's all these other really equally important roads that are celebrating some centennials next year, and so we'll celebrate that. So
right in people's backyards, so there are a lot of them there.
Well, hey, thanks again for being on the show. We'll have you back, and definitely we'll make some plans to get some riding in this fall. I really, really enjoyed that trip in Ohio. So likewise, come out to Pennsylvania, and then if I can get you to come out here to California, we'll swap coasts.
That sounds great. I look forward to it. Thanks, Fantastic. Greg.
For the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Drevenstead. Thanks for listening, and keep the rubber side down. If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends. We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.